I am excited to welcome a returning guest and a show favorite. James Harris is a British-born luxury real estate broker who built his career in Los Angeles after moving from the UK. Known to millions as a longtime star of Million Dollar Listing Los Angeles, James blends British polish with American drive and a no-nonsense approach to business. Over the course of his career, he has closed more than $6 billion in high-end real estate transactions, represented landmark and record-setting properties, and advised a global roster of high-net-worth clients, including celebrities, executives, and Fortune 500 leaders. Known for his calm confidence and disciplined fundamentals, James has built a reputation for succeeding in any market by mastering preparation, consistency, and trust. James, so good to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David, and thank you for such a lovely introduction, my friend, and it's great to be reunited. How you doing?
Really good, bro. I was telling you, it's been a minute, and we miss you. We miss you here.
Yeah. I like that because I've always enjoyed, I don't know what this is, maybe our third go around over, 5, 6, 7 years, and always enjoy our conversations, David. So it's really good to see you, my man.
Same. As I was telling you, always one of my favorite interviews. You've always got great energy. So it's good to do this on here again. A lot of changed for you the last couple of years, right? You made some moves. I do know that. Another $1 billion in sales, a lot of awards, I'm sure. And I think it's actually been like 2 years since we last sat down. I know we talk offline from time to time, but a lot has happened in the world and in the market. So before we get into the real estate side of things, I'd love to start by hearing what's new in your world, or what's different over the past couple of years. What stands out as highlights personally, professionally? What's new in the world of James Harris?
Good question, man. I mean, there's a lot of change. I'm the kind of guy, when I'm comfortable, I like to make myself uncomfortable. So no matter when I get on, I think there's always going to be change because I always look at change as evolving. And I always want to make sure that I'm evolving and growing. But change, I'd say the most significant is I now have 2 teenagers, not one. I've got a daughter that's turning 17 this year and another that's turning 13. That is my biggest accomplishment, hands down, bar none. Business is great. We've started to really expand in New York and Miami. Obviously, we're Los Angeles based. I launched a tech company today, which is just pretty insane that we're chatting today because today is the day. And I've been building this quietly for nearly 2 years. We raised $10 million and we've got some of the most incredible people in the tech world in the company, which is called Breezy. And just everything's great, man. Just working hard, staying focused, keeping my head down. And getting on with life, No,
I love it. You've always got stuff going on. You've always got, things going on. You're in, one of the most, I don't want to say volatile markets, but it's an interesting market, right? And I do want to talk about Breezy in a minute here, and we'll get into the details and the minutia of that. But I do want to zoom out a little bit, just talk about the market for a moment. You operate at the top of that, that luxury space, Hollywood, Los Angeles, that whole area. From your vantage point, what's really changed over the last few years? If someone, just reads the headlines, it's kind of hard to know what's really going on there. Of course, there was the fire, of course, and all that. So on the ground right now, what are you actually seeing in Los Angeles luxury?
Yeah, so LA luxury is an interesting one, right? Because when you discuss luxury, I've never necessarily defined it by a price point, but let's just go 20 million and above. I think wealthy people have accumulated wealth and only got wealthier. So that side of the market feels very strong and has done consistently for several years. We've seen 20, 50, 80, 100, $150 million sales all across 2025. Of course, we started the year with one of the worst disaster wildfires we've ever seen across the United States. And I think that affected 1,000 homes, and that caused a lot of shakeup in the market. And sadly, just so many lost their homes. And it was just a really weird start to the year. Human beings are very resilient. So I feel like people are bouncing back and figuring out what their next steps are. Of course, there's many that still don't know what they're going to do. But in LA, we've always face challenges. We've got this ULA mansion tax, which is ridiculous, which is a 4 or 5.5% tax between $5 up to $10.6 million when you sell a property. We deal with, very strict building restrictions that have only become stricter. Of course, with tariffs, the cost of building and construction has gone up, which changes developers' ROIs. But even with all of that said, LA remains LA, and LA is a lifestyle, and it's the entertainment capital of the world, and it's becoming the tech hub of what used to be Northern California. A lot of those have moved to Southern California post COVID, and so the market is hot. People are still transacting, and it's always a very, very exciting market in Southern California. So no complaints over here.
Great. Well, you answered my second question is like, where do you see it going? But I think that kind of answers it. LA is always LA, right? If you're buying in LA or it's always going to stay the same. It's a lifestyle choice, right? So, and, you referenced it, Los Angeles, California itself, it's gone through a lot, not to mention the luxury real estate market, as you were talking about there. But one thing, you're always very, very motivating. And one of your superpowers is the incredible confidence you have in any market, any economy. Doesn't matter what happens with politics, policies, as I said, the economy, the sentiment, doesn't matter, right? You always seem to make us believe that none of that matters, but what does matter is what you can control, which is yourself. I think your belief system shows that, it's a part of your story. We all know you came to LA not knowing even one person, right? And then you became a power broker to the elite, a TV star, of course. So I've always wanted to ask you about this. People see the confidence now, and, belief in yourself is something that is usually built. It's not discovered. So have you always been like that? Have you always been the confident James Harris we see?
A really cool question, man. Yes, in short. I mean, listen, do we struggle as human beings? Of course. Do we have bad days? Of course. I have always worked on myself. I'll just say that. And I'll tell you this. And it's one thing that was said to me many, many, many years ago, and it stuck with me. And it goes back to when you're on an airplane, right? And they're doing the security debriefing and they're showing you what to do. And they say, when that mask comes down, what do? They say you put the mask on yourself first so you can go out and help others, right? And I really feel like I run my life in that very same way. And what I mean by that is I've spent many years working on myself. And what I mean by that is working on mindset, because your mind is a very powerful tool. And many don't have their mindset in the right place. But I've worked on ensuring that if my mindset is right, then I can go out and be of service to other people. And as human beings, we do get that choice on whether a glass is half full or half empty, right? And we actually get the choice to make that decision. And I'm funnily enough looking at a glass right now, right? It's half full. A lot would say it was half empty. But for me, I would rather look at the pros and not the cons. I'd rather look at the positives, not the negatives. And I've just found that running my life by focusing on what I can control and what's positive, not negative, has been very, very helpful. And the truth is, we live in a really crazy world today. There is so much going on, whether it's politics, war, whatever it might be. There's a lot of very good reason to be miserable, depressed, upset, worried, concerned, scared. And again, I cannot control the outcome on most of those things. So I get to choose how I'm going to be every single day. And for me, I want to carry a positive message to others, and I want to be a positive person. So that's what I choose to do each day. It works for me. And then when I hear you ask questions like that, it puts a smile on my face because it's clearly working for you and, please God, many others. So it's a decision I get to make, and one that I live by, and it works very well for me.
Yeah, what a beautiful breakdown. People need to hear that. Like, to your point, I think people really need to hear that. There's so much going on. So glass half full. It always is. I mean, again, you control yourself. And that's one thing that always comes through with how you present yourself, right? And the other question I wanted to ask about, because, I've known you over the years and we've talked, quite a bit. And, you've been open about ADHD. And I think I have ADHD. I know a lot of, high performing individuals have that. You've been open about that, leaving school early. I've always wanted to ask, like, how did you learn to work with your brain instead of fighting it? Like, because sometimes these type of things can be a blessing, if we look at them again that way.
Yeah. I mean, I will be the first to say I struggled in school. I speak about it very openly. Learning through the academic system with extreme ADHD is very, very difficult. Trying to focus is difficult. Trying to focus on something you have little to no interest in is almost impossible. But when you find your passion, when you find your interest, when you find something that excites you, drives you, motivates you, ADHD turns into your superpower,
Mhm.
you know? And for me, the second I could leave school and get to work and interact with people and learn in an industry that got me excited, ADHD truly became my superpower. And it's funny because we have a child that also has ADHD. And I'm watching her now navigate through that. And she's doing far better than I ever did when I was at school. But I can literally see her future and how it's going to turn to be her superpower. And look, today I get to use ADHD to my benefit. I'm able to multitask. I'm able to really focus on not just one, but three, four, five things where I'm still in a room and you would think you're the only person I'm focused on right now, yet there's 25 things going on or 100 things going on. And instead of, again, feeling sorry for myself or looking at it as a deficiency or something where I might need medication to stabilize it, I really lean into having ADHD. It's not something I'm ashamed of or embarrassed about. It's actually something that I can use today to help drive business and hopefully help others realize that they can do the exact same.
Man, I really appreciate that breakdown. Sometimes mental health comes up on the show or, like just different idiosyncrasies. People like to hear, like somebody as successful as yourself deals with it as well. People resonate with that stuff. And that's one of the things you're really good at is, the authenticity really comes through. The other thing you're really, really good at is giving actionable advice and habits and best practices as well as motivation, obviously, to sales professionals. As I was saying, I got a book coming out, and you're quoted in there quite a few times because of that. It's crazy, with all the guests we've had on the show. Like, I could name 100 guests, and we've quoted you quite a bit in there. Yeah, looking forward to dropping that and giving you your flowers there. But I did want to ask specifically about a couple things. Like one thing you've talked about is income volatility, and it's usually a habits problem. And you're somebody that I refer to when it comes to developing good habits. Like, what does a daily or weekly habit do that actually separates you from top performers? You know what I'm saying? Like, what habits do top performers have that everyone else does not?
Great question. First and foremost, congratulations on coming out with a book. I firsthand know the work that takes and the effort it takes, and I think most don't.
It's wild. It's years. It's years.
It's years, and especially when it's a passion project and one that you care so deeply about. So first and foremost, huge congratulations on that. And I'm very proud to be quoted and look forward to reading it. My habits, for me, it's about having healthy habits. I have every single morning at 7 a.m., every single morning on repeat, and it says, be of service. And it's not necessarily that I need to be reminded of being of service, but I want to be of service, right? I think if each and every day, instead of focusing on ourselves, focus on how you can be of service to somebody else, that is a great way to start your day. And if you can go out each day with that mentality, that mindset, you will be blown away at the results. What separates me from others in my industry is having the knowledge and power to spend within my means. And you were talking about it before in terms of like financial superpowers to stay ahead of the game. For me, I've seen so many people in our industry work from paycheck to paycheck, and they make $10,000 or $100,000 and they'll spend $110,000. I'm a very focused oriented person. If I close the biggest deal of my life today, I'm going to be in the office tomorrow morning, even earlier. And I am always careful to spend within my means. I don't spend stupidly or frivolously. I'm very careful with the way that I spend. And you've got to be organizational in how you protect your assets, because this is a world that, as we know, with inflation, the cost of goods and services rise and rise and rise. It's very easy to blow through your money without thinking about it. So you do need to have a plan. You do need to protect your wealth, and you need to be strategic in how you spend your money. And it's not what you earn, it's what you spend. So you've got to be super careful, strategic, and you can't be stupid. And I think in any business, you have to think of it as a long term, not a short term. And in real estate, where we're all independent contractors, we're the CEO of our own business, it's very easy to do a deal today and take yourself on vacation tomorrow. But I think what separates the real winners are the ones that get back in and get stuck in. And I was at the Grammys last night, and Pharrell said an amazing, amazing line. He said, "Don't stop working.
Mm.
Just keep working. Whatever else is going on in your life, just keep working." And my takeaway from that was just stay focused, stay in your lane, stay committed, and stay focused and keep working. And so I like to take little tidbits from people I hear along the way and then apply them to my life. So that would be it for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Such great advice. Motivation. You were referencing motivation earlier. And, I should have probably asked this off the last quote you had, but when motivation drops, because it always does, what do you rely on instead? Like, how do you stay motivated and driven? Because you're a really driven guy. You're always doing something. So how do you stay motivated and driven? Does it come down to the habits you were referencing?
It does. I think having healthy habits, healthy schedule, for me, I said this at the beginning.
Mhm.
I am the type of person that I cannot live on a flat line, right? If I'm living in a very comfortable moment of life, I like to make myself uncomfortable. And the moment I make myself uncomfortable, I feel as though I'm going through growth. And when I go through growth, I like to motivate myself. And yes, there are incredible moments of fear that will get in the way of growth. You cannot do it, you're less than, or I go back to being the 15-year-old kid at school that was less than all the other students and couldn't keep up and wasn't academic. My brain will go there. And it's how you quickly remove that fear and get back into motivating yourself. And there is no bigger competitor that exists out there than myself. Yeah, I believe in a healthy competition with my peers. Don't get me wrong, but there is no bigger competitor than me, myself, and I. And so I'm always competing and striding to do better. And I find that being motivational for myself from within is something that just stimulates me and always lifts me up. And I'll end it with this. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm really and truly not. Because if I fail, and all my biggest failures in my life and some of the darkest moments of my life are exactly what led me to where I am today. And I don't think if I'd gone through those failures and those dark moments, I would be anywhere close to where I am today. Mm-hmm. So if you can really understand that mentality and have that mindset, then your success is never ending, because you'll try new things and you'll reach new heights, and some of them will work and others won't. But if you don't try, you'll never know. And so I'm permanently pushing myself. I'm permanently motivating myself because I always want to do better. And I always want to strive to be a better version of the version I am now. Yeah. So I think it's a lot of self-motivation. You have to push yourself to be uncomfortable to get to that new level. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's so well said, so one more question on this, so how do you distinguish between healthy discomfort and burnout, and especially in a performance driven industry, how do you distinguish between the two?
Listen, burnout is defined by mindset, right? I could tell you I'm burnt out right now. I'm running my real estate business. We've just launched a tech company. I have a wife and 2 children. I could choose to be burnt out right now, or I could say to myself, I'm incredibly blessed to be in this position. I'm incredibly lucky that I'm in this position. I'm incredibly grateful to be exactly where I am today. Now, burnout is real, right? And I think it comes down to healthy balance. And I sure as shit work as hard as I can to have a healthy balance in my life. Right? I try my very hardest to spend my time with my family, to see my girls in the morning, to spend time with my family in the evenings, to take the weekends, to be present with my family. I do all of those things. Does it always work? No. But I think in any business, especially real estate, you have to try and build yourself a healthy balance so that you can be the best version of yourself when you're on.
Yeah, super well said. I appreciate that breakdown. I've never heard that take on burnout and discomfort before, but I like that. That's a great answer. One more question before we move on to Breezy, what you're doing right now. I did want to ask you about personal brand. You've built a really strong personal brand over the years without being loud or gimmicky. That's the one thing I notice about you, right? How do you think about branding in a trust-based business? business like sales and real estate? Like, what's your philosophy on branding and your take on personal branding?
Yeah, I just think it comes down to authenticity.
Mhm.
I think we live in a world of social media today where we all feel we have to live up to be a certain person or be like a certain person or put out specific content that isn't authentic to who we are. I think the biggest mistake that people make is they're trying to be somebody else, or they've seen someone in their age category or their demographic and they think that's cool. So then they try and be like that. For me, I don't want to be like anybody else, and maybe you like that or maybe you don't, but I want to be true to who I am.
Mhm.
And it's like when I started on Million Dollar Listing, I'll never ever forget it. It was Billy Gardell from Mike and Molly. And I asked Billy, I said, Billy, you think I should do the show? And he looked at me and he goes, as long as you're not an asshole, they can't make you look like an asshole.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me forever because you can only be defined by what you put out there,
Mhm.
right? So be true to who you are, be authentic to yourself in any business, in any walk of life, with anything that you are trying to build a brand around. Just be true to yourself, be real, put content out that speaks to you, that's going to speak to your audience. Because the moment you're trying to be like somebody else, it's not going to feel honest to the people that know you or the people that are watching you. And I think that goes for social, but it goes for your whole life. As long as you are true to who you are and what you want people to see, it will be received well. But the second that you start trying to be like somebody else for the right or wrong reasons, it's not going to feel authentic. So go out, but keep it real and keep it as authentic as you possibly can.
No, I love that. That's such a fantastic breakdown. Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing now. You just launched Breezy. So tell us, what is that? What are we looking at here with Breezy?
Wow. So Breezy is the first AI operating system that is completely independent for the real estate agent. What does that mean? It means that you don't have to be a part of a specific brokerage now to have the best tech in the business. Breezy was designed to streamline a real estate agent's entire day, right? So I saw a huge gap in the market. I saw that, yes, we had Zillow and Redfin and Trulia.com and Homes, but they were all consumer facing products, but there was nothing truly built for the real estate agent to improve their day, make them more efficient, help them with branding. And so there's truly four features to Breezy that speak to real estate agents. The first is we do branded comps that are completely customizable. So an agent can literally type in any address across America, and within 60 seconds, they can build a completely branded report for their client. No assistant, no marketing director needed, no MLS needed. They can shoot that straight to their client. It can be done it can be done in the air on a plane, but it literally takes less than 60 seconds and looks absolutely beautiful. We also built a completely customized note taker in the real estate agent's brain. So now Breezy can come into meetings or Zooms or go to inspections with you. And the idea is that agents have so many plates spinning at once that things just inherently slip through the cracks. So now Breezy is there listening to every meeting and then transcribes those notes back to you in just the real estate agent's brain only. You can then share those notes with your clients or wherever it may be. But we also built a completely customized pipeline for agents. So similar to a CRM, but agents don't want to put their information into their brokerage's CRM because what happens if you leave? It becomes the brokerage's information. So we've built a complete pipeline tool for agents to run their escrows, their listings, what's on market, off market, what's in escrow, pending, buyers, sellers, etc., so that you can run your entire business from Breezy. And then lastly, which I'm most excited about, is a product called Underbuilt Radar. So this is super cool, David. You'll be able to type in an address anywhere across America, and within seconds, we have proprietary data that will be able to take any property and tell an agent that this property, based on existing lot size, is underbuilt by X percentage. So essentially, we can tell you
Oh,
how underbuilt any property is across America, what the build potential is based on those zoning restrictions, based on the setbacks, and we can show you what the full potential is, which helps for developers, owner users, homeowners that just want to understand the potential of their home. It will help agents that are going up for listing meetings if they're trying to price a property where the land is worth more than the house. And then again, we can give you a completely branded report that you're able to then pass on to your client. So we're actually able to give agents data that the consumer just doesn't have access to.
and that is
And once.
wild. That is
It,
wild.
it's so insane. I can't wait for you to see it. And not
Yeah.
only that, if the property sits on hillside, we can show you how much of the property sits on what type of grade, whether it's steep slope. If the property's on flat land, we can show you the actual buildable area of what can be built. So much like, say, a Carfax report, someone wants to know what their car's worth, someone wants to know what their credit score is. Why would a homeowner not want to know what the potential of their own property is? So we have those data sets now built within Breezy, and agents can start pulling those reports and sending them to their clients immediately. So I'm very excited.
That is crazy, James. I
Very
was wondering what
excited.
you were gonna say there about that last piece, but that is wild. That is something that
It's
very valuable.
I'm not even, because we don't have another hour to talk about it, but it's data that you cannot find anywhere.
I
You know,
Yeah,
if
I
you
would love
want
to
to,
see it. I mean,
I'd love to show it to
there's
you.
a big crossover with what I'm doing actually with another team there. I would love to see what it's doing because that sounds wild. Like that sounds, that I was not expecting that. So,
You will be blown away. And by May, we'll be across 83% of America. And so just imagine, right? You've never
mhm.
been able to get this data. You'd have to hire a surveyor that would charge
Yeah,
five, six, $7,000 to come out, understand the property lines, the code, the zoning. Now we got the data, you put in the address, we go through our zoning regulations, and out comes a report that gives you the exact build potential. Not only do we give you the build potential, we show you the setbacks, we show you what the height restriction is in that zone, what the basement requirements are,
yeah.
how many parking spaces are required. We give it all to you in a single page report so that you can decide whether or not you want to move forward on that property, or you simply just want to understand what the potential of your own property is. Super cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Congratulations on that,
Thank
man.
you, man. Thank you.
Where do we find out more? Like where's the what's the URL? What's the like where do we go for that?
So we literally, we launched today with our exclusive. And if you go to www.breezy.com, we've just opened up the wait list. And so agents can now go in, jump on the wait list, and we will start letting people in the coming weeks.
Wow, congrats again. That's amazing. Here's a question I wanted to ask as we wrap up here. What does success mean to you now as opposed to when you first arrived in Los Angeles all those years ago?
Wow, that's an interesting one. You know, success for me isn't necessarily determined by a dollar amount, right? I think lots of people, I just want to be rich. Like there's so many people I've come across in my real estate business that are very wealthy and fucking miserable. I'm just going
Yeah.
to say it like that. I have no desire to be miserable. Success is measured by happiness, and
Mhm.
happiness is measured by how I carry myself every day. You know, I think when I got to Los Angeles, success back then was I got to make money, I got to buy a house, I got to protect this. And then I had a family, and then suddenly success looks very different, right?
Mhm.
It's all about your children and how are you protecting their future and how are you making sure you're being the best father, the best husband, the best son, the best friend that you can be. And of course, my trajectory in success should always continue to move up and continue to get broader and bigger and better. But for me, success today is about happiness. You know, I want to be happy. I want to be a good father, a good husband. I want to be able to think about healthy balance where I can do all of these great things with my family and create incredible memories with my family. I don't want to look back in 10 years and just say, I spent no time with any of my family because I was so focused on success. Listen, success is not easy, and I am all in, and I will go to any lengths to create legacy, but it can't be at the expense of happiness. So I would say success today is defined by happiness.
So well said. Isn't it crazy how that changes over the years? you know?
Mad.
Yeah, it's
Mad.
crazy.
I can assure you the
Yeah.
21-year-old James' success did not look like that. It looked very different.
Yeah.
And by the way, we had a lot of fun back then, but yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
it's very, very different today for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, 100%. Anyways, James, always a pleasure, man. You're the best of the best. I've always said this a million
Appreciate
times. You're one of my favorite interviews of all time. So I really appreciate you taking the time today, James. And all the best with breezy.com.
Breezy.com. Yep, yep. And you can follow us on social at breezy.ai. So feel free to give us a follow and keep up to date with what we're putting out. But it's really exciting and delighted that we happen to have this podcast today.
Yeah, 100%.